tremendous amount in this business, and it's always great to have another fellow great Canadian on this show. My guest is none other than the one and only Big Mike, Michael Elgin. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, but listen, you forgot TV day. We got a bad snowstorm, and a truck cut me off on the way home, and I hit his tire tracks, and it shot me into a ditch.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I had a bit of a smoother ride home there. Actually, it wasn't as far for me, I think, as it probably was for you, being that corner.
Yeah, that was crazy. I guess I was doing all right if they wanted me to drive 4 hours to do a little TV spot, huh?
Yeah. And I remember, we did that. We went for breakfast before, and then we went and did the TV spot for Kojiko to promote the event. That was a lot of fun. And we had some good conversations there and whatnot. It's funny looking back at it because I think the two of us look completely different now than we did back then. I remember you had the long hair going.
Yeah. I did. I have some sweet hair too. I remember people being like, "Oh, you got such nice hair." Yeah, they jinxed it on me.
Yeah, I had the braids at the time, which I might bring back, but that's a work in progress. But our careers would definitely go in much different places. And you totally blew up. But I feel like every time that I would meet you on a show here and there, maybe it's a show in Oshawa, maybe it's in Hamilton, maybe it's usually it was mostly in Ontario. You were always taking those strides, moving forward. And it was one thing I admired about you.
Well, I appreciate that.
Give me a sec. My producer is just fucking with my mic right now.
That's the wrong one. It's good.
Okay, let's just pick it up from where we were. But you were always taking those strides forward. You were moving forward with your career. You were, becoming one of the top guys in Ontario. Then from there, you were, doing stuff in the States with IWA Mid-South, with CZW, with a lot of the companies out there, and getting those tryouts with Ring of Honor. I could see you had your eyes on the prize, and I think it was something we had in common is that we both have very strong ambitions to want to go really far in this sport that we love.
Yeah, and I mean, this was all I ever wanted to do. I think the first picture I have of me as a baby was me sitting in the middle of an LJN wrestling ring, and my cousins playing with all the old LJN figures around me, because my cousins were like 10 to 15 years senior me, and when they got out of wrestling, I got all their hand-me-downs. So it started young. Like, I remember clear as day, kindergarten. It's cute for kindergarten teachers to ask their students what they want to be when they grow up. Well, I said pro wrestler from then. I was the pro wrestling kid growing up. I wore pro wrestling t-shirts, brought pro wrestling toys to show and tell. Like, that was me. I was like, oh, it's the wrestling kid. And I started training at 14 and never looked back. And I remember even when I started training, everybody wanted to be The Rock and Steve Austin. And of course, they're the big stars. But at 14, I'd already been like, oh, Kenta Kobashi and Chris Hero and CM Punk wrestled for 94 minutes at IWA Mid-South. You ever heard of BJ Whitmer? Like, that was me. I was in the indies. I remember watching Jody Fleisch and Johnny Storm at CZW and the Briscoe brothers against each other. And like, it was just a whole new world to me. And when I started wrestling, I remember there wasn't a lot of people that were familiar with that. And they all like had this high hopes of, I'm going to go to WWE one day. And then they would get a tryout when they came to Canada and they wouldn't get hired, and then they'd quit. And of course, WWE is a goal, I think, if you join wrestling, but it was never my main goal. It was always, I want to do the indies. IWA Mid-South is big when I started with all the TPIs and stuff and using all the top indie guys. Then, of course, Ring of Honor started, and that was a place I wanted to go to, and Japan was a place I wanted to go to, and I wanted to go to Mexico. I knew I wasn't tall. I knew I could get in great shape, but I knew that, 5'11", and I've shrunk since then because of all the head bumps I take, but I knew I was never going to be a Hulk Hogan, a Rock, a Steve Austin, and I looked at guys like Chris Jericho and Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn and all those type talent that traveled the world to get recognition and be the best they could be to get a high level in this sport. And that's what I always envisioned for myself.
I remember one of those first couple of shows I was on with you. You might remember this. I think it was in the Ottawa area. I wish I remember the name of the promotion, but it was run by one of the guys from Aftershock there, Dean Dennis. You had come up with some guys, I think, carload from like the Oshawa area. And I was with a guy named Max Boyer. And I remember sitting there and talking with you. You know, you had your match, our match had happened too, and we were just sitting in the stands talking as the show was going on. And I remember Boye afterwards, he referred to you to me as being something of like that you reminded him of a young Pierre-Carl Ouellet. And I find that was a pretty spot-on comparison because, you know, you were a well-built guy, but you could move really well in there too, and you had a pretty good pain tolerance. You took some good bumps as well. You were pretty well-rounded, and I would say a skill set that we don't find in a lot of professional wrestlers.
Yeah, and, you know, I think that just came, again, from watching everything. You know, I never envisioned myself as one type of wrestler. I never watched just one wrestler and thought that's the style I want to be until later. You know, at that point in my career, I was just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what fit who I wanted to be. So I remember vividly my guys at the time on the big stages were Shawn Michaels and Davey Boy Smith and Bret Hart. So 3 drastically different styles. And then you go and I start watching Japanese wrestling, and Kawada, Misawa, and Kobashi were my guys. Again, 3 drastically different styles. And then I'm watching the indies, and I love Super Dragon, B-Boy, and BJ Whitmer, and they have that hard-hitting style. And then I like Chris Hero, who has that technical style. And I was lucky enough to, at the school I was at, there was a lot of variety of people that would come in. Joe Legend would come in, and he would teach us a lot of chain wrestling. And that's something I don't really utilize when I wrestle, just because I don't feel it fits my style. But I love technical wrestling. I was in a lucha school, so I learned a lot of lucha, which actually helped me get over in Mexico. And I don't necessarily have to use these styles, but I have a grand knowledge of everything in wrestling that I can consume. So I like to learn as much as I can about every style there is, so that I can work with somebody of that style. You know, if you know how to take and give each and every move in each and every style, then you don't have to be like, oh, that thing you want to do, what is that? I don't know. You just like, oh yeah, this makes sense. I do that and do this, and it just comes together. And that was always my envision, you know. And I think it really helped, because when I first went to New Japan, I remember people going, Michael Elgin's in the G1. Why isn't Roderick Strong? And then 2 matches in, the crowd in the States was tweeting, oh shit, Big Mike's up. We're about to get a great match. I didn't start calling myself Big Mike. It was the U.S. audience watching that first G1 2015 because I was out there killing it. And they all expected me to just not do a thing over there. And then I signed a contract. And I remember going to Mexico and people being like, do you know the Lucha Libre style? And then the second year I went to Mexico, they make me win the World Cup. Like, you know, so I dove into every style because I wanted to be a complete wrestler.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I can totally relate to that. In my own style, I also want to be as complete as possible. I incorporate elements of many different styles of wrestling, and actually sometimes even go out of my way to try to showcase everything in what I do, because I want to be as far away from one-dimensional as possible. So I think we have that in common. One of the things I've always gotten from you, and, you know, it's no secret. I mean, we're not the best of friends, but, you know, I think we always had a good relationship. We always had good communication and stuff. You seemed very approachable.
I think we both were so driven and so confident in ourselves that we gravitated towards each other because other people were rubbed the wrong way by us.
and you know, it was in my chronology that I'm trying to lead the interview to kind of get to that eventually. And we will touch on that. Don't worry. But what I wanted to say was that
man, we can touch on it the whole thing. I don't listen.
Yeah. No, it's all.
That's how wrestling. And it's funny now that we're older, nobody's going to do that. It's just what happened is when you're new in wrestling and you're driven and you're confident, the old guard looks at you like, who is this kid? Yeah. Like, I see it all the time. And I'm the first one to go up to kids that are 18, 19 now and be like, what do you do? They're like, well, I do this clothesline. I'm like, do you do that clothesline? Or did somebody tell you not to do the fancy move you like to do the clothesline? Well, this guy over here that's never left the state says I should do this, not the fancy stuff. I go, yeah. And did it work for him? Because he's never left the state. Like, it's just a weird thing in wrestling, man. I want everybody to do what they want. This can be so much fun. And the thing in wrestling is people think that if you do high spots, you can't tell a story. You can use the high spots within the story to make the story better. That is what's lost because those old guard aren't telling the new guard, hey, You like that spot? It didn't make sense. They're just saying, don't do that. That's wrong. That's not it. It ain't it. Wrestling is a puzzle. You buy a box with puzzle pieces in it and you put it down and you try to take the centerpiece and put it up here in the corner. It doesn't fit. It goes in the center. But people don't look at wrestling like that. And it's just a nightmare, man. I try to do these seminars, and I tell people this all the time because I ask them to do a spot and they say, they do something. I go, why did you do that there? And it's always, well, so-and-so told me. I was like, okay, Sorry, I know I'm going to go on tangents. This is a very passionate thing that I talk about. And it's weird because there's a misconception about me. And like, if you ask anybody who's not worried about the BS, they'll say like, Elgin's helped me a lot, I don't need to say any names, but I have some people who are very successful that I helped. And they're the ones that are like, hey man, how you doing? Check this match for me. Because they know I'm not going to bullshit them, but I'm also want them to get better, right? My thing in wrestling is I have a 6-year-old son. And if he ever wants to wrestle, there has to be a strong business for him to get into. And if I can help somebody who's less experienced than me get to a certain level and they are at the top of their game, then bam, the business keeps growing. There's a great business for my son to get into. But I feel like sometimes that old guard is just like, they're protecting their spot. Yeah. And that's weird to me because for me, I want the match before me to be unfollowable, because if I follow it, it makes me better, right? If everybody is equally as good on the show, everybody has to raise their game, and the competition of wrestling keeps raising. I want that. There's no fun sitting at the top of a mountain if nobody's chasing you. The view might be nice, but it gets old. I want to be knocked down a peg, and then I want to get back up. And I want to be knocked down a peg, because if you can constantly raise your game. My 20-year anniversary is July 27th. 20 years doing this. And I constantly have to evolve because of everybody else involved. And there's some people. I remember in Ring of Honor watching the dark matches. And I'm not going to say names. And I would hear, why are they doing that? That's a dark match. And I would speak up. And I shouldn't have been speaking up. That's probably why I get heat. I would say to these guys that have been in Ring of Honor longer than me, don't you remember when you were doing the pre-show and wanted a job here? That's them right now. They're trying to showcase, because if the crowd gets behind them, maybe they'll get a job. If they go out there and do tackle, drop down, leapfrog, hip toss, grab a hold, give me a clothesline, back elbow, clothesline, body slam. Who wants to hire somebody like that? We can all do fundamentals. Show me something. That's my take. It's not everybody's take. It's my take. I want you to have this 20-minute balls to the wall match that has people on their feet clapping, and me have to go out there and go, how can I top this? Well, this is how I top it. You know what I mean? Yeah,
absolutely. And that's how you move up a card, because if you're the guy going out there and you're getting those kinds of reactions and leaving the audience in awe, they're going to have to put you further and further up that card so that, hey, these people will react that way, and it's not going to bury everybody else. But like you said, it builds that healthy competition where it's like, okay, that match was a banger. I got to go out there now and I got to top that. I got to work harder. And I think it's something you and I have in common is neither of us have ever been afraid of any kind of hard work. That when there were critics, when there were naysayers, it just meant, dig our heels deeper and work harder to be better at our craft and to get ourselves out there. And that's something, like I said, that I respected about you. No matter what I would hear from people, there'd always be rumors, there'd always be haters, all those kinds of things. But the sense I got in dealing with you personally, face to face or over a phone, is this guy loves professional wrestling. There is a love of this business. I would even say, and I use this as an example when I talk to people, that I say, like, you love the wrestling business, I feel, as much as I love the wrestling business. And there are a few guys that I meet, throughout my career. I'd even say maybe someone like Speedball Mike Bailey, who's a good friend of mine. He's the same way. We all have this intense love of professional wrestling, and it shows, I believe, in our work. And so that's why, for me, in talking about you, I kind of find that it's unfortunate. You and I have only shared a ring together once, and it wasn't under the most ideal of circumstances. I don't know if you remember that match that we had.
I remember working with you, but I don't remember the details of it.
Yeah. So it was a 6-man tag in Barrie, Ontario. I remember that. I remember that Eugene, Nick Densmore, was on your team in that match. I think I might have been teaming with Chris Thorne and someone else. But it was in Barrie, Ontario. It was a main event. We barely got to do anything in there. I think we were maybe in the ring for about a minute together. And it was just during the heat, and there's maybe like one or two spots between us. I think like I had you.
I do remember that.
Yeah, I think
I do remember.
I did
that.
a hope with you,
As
and then
I said,
I think we did a turnaround. Yeah.
Yeah, I think again, and you know, no offense to those people, but they had one mindset and we had a completely different.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just how the business is, man. I've been in that situation so many times, and it's whatever. You know, it's just. I want to go out there and have a match. I think some people. So, this was 2018 maybe, and I was working in Oshawa, my hometown, and I had already done a lot in my career. I was Ring of Honor World Champion. I was successful in New Japan, successful in Mexico, and I'm doing this match, and a veteran, you know, a friend of mine goes, "Why are you bumping so much?" I go, "Man, because this is fucking fun. You know, this is fun for me." Like, why would I go out there and not bump? Why would I do that? I remember a close friend of mine joking about how him and another guy, who again are like Canadian veterans, and they are, don't get me wrong, but they were in a match with Jushin Thunder Liger and they made a bet who could bump less. Like, what? You want to bump less with Jushin Thunder Liger? Like, brother, Jushin Thunder Liger can give me any move he wants. I'll bump 1,300 times in that match. I don't. This is fun to me. It's enjoyable. I want to find. Again, I'm not going to bump 1,300 times. I try to protect that I'm the bigger, stronger guy in most scenarios. But I'll still bump as long as I work to the bump. I'm not afraid of bumping. I learned how to bump. I like the bump. I love this business, and I don't know, man. It blows my mind sometimes when people are like that. Like, do they not have fun anymore? I still have fun. 20 years in, I'm still having fun. I'm still learning.
Well, I think there's a lot of there's a bad mentality, and I think it festers down to the newer generation because they view these people that, you know, maybe they were paying a ticket to go see on independent shows as being bigger stars than they actually are, when realistically these are people who've just, you know, maybe been around a long time and through longevity have a little bit of local name value. But when it comes down to it, I mean, you know, I don't like anyone who's trying to take money under false pretense, and I certainly don't abide by that. If I get somebody in a match, I want to make sure that it's somebody who's willing to work and make sure that the people get what they paid to see.
I agree with that. You know, it's funny. In later years, IWA Mid-South was not drawing well. 2018, 2019. And I was going out there and having some of the best matches of my career that probably people will never watch. And some people will see them like, dude, why are you bumping so much in front of 20 people? I go, those 20 people still paid for a ticket. Mm-hmm. And if I have a bad match, they're not gonna say, "Oh, Michael Elgin's opponent wasn't good." They're gonna say, "Oh, that Michael Elgin isn't as good as I thought he was." Right?
Yeah.
Like, they don't look at an opponent that they've never seen, and they see this guy who's been Ring of Honor World Champion.
Your name on the line.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't care if I walk to a show and 2 people bought a ticket. They are getting a match that you could see on TV from me. I love this, and I don't want to give any fan a crappy experience. Here's a perfect example. I was 11 years old. I was driving home with my mom, and I looked over and I saw a poster on the telephone pole, and I said, "Mom, you got to stop. You got to stop. That's a wrestling poster." She goes, "How did you see that?" I go, "Just stop." She stopped. I ran to the corner. Sure enough, there was a wrestling poster right near the Oshawa Civic Auditorium. There was a wrestling show that night. I said, "Mom, there's a wrestling show tonight. I got to go to it." And I went to it, and there was this match. And the best way I can describe it, there was like a chubby Eddie Guerrero looking guy and a smaller Rey Mysterio looking guy. And they had this match for an 11-year-old me that blew my mind. Blew my mind. And the rest of the show was fine. The main event was like tugboat against somebody, you know, like one of those shows. And I went to the back of the building after the show, and I sat there and looked for this guy. And they walked out, and I said, "I'm sorry to bother you, but I want to be a pro wrestler, and what you guys just did out there blew my mind. Where did you train?" And they sat there and talked to 11-year-old me for about 30 minutes. And right then, I knew it was not impossible to be a wrestler.
Mm.
And I look at that like, how could have my life changed had they say, piss off, kid, I don't got time for you. You know, so like, I always want to have a good experience at shows with fans, whether it's at the gimmick table, whether it's walking the places. Like, I remember in Japan, we would stay at the Tokyo Dome Hotel and do Korakuen Hall, which are right there. And I understand that a lot of the foreign talent was sick of signing autographs, and they would kind of rush through the crowd to the building. And I would sit and I would take pictures with every fan. I would sign autographs until one of the staff members from New Japan would come out and get me and say, sorry, guys, he's got to go, and take me in the building. I would never want to disappoint somebody who might look up to me.
Mm-hmm.
I would never want to disappoint a fan that wants to be a pro wrestler. And what if they had a bad experience with a wrestler? You know, it's just like Rampage Jackson. He has a story that Undertaker or something. I don't want to misquote and say Undertaker when it wasn't. But there's a story out there about Rampage Jackson saying he talked to a wrestler and they kind of didn't have the time for him, so he went into fighting instead of pro wrestling. Like, imagine how our lives could have changed. And I think about that a lot. I really do. Like, I know people say a lot of things and there's a lot of misconceptions, but I genuinely believe that any fan I've interacted with that came to the table, even if they're not buying something and they just want to chat, I try to give them the time of day, because who knows, man? Who knows what their goals are? Who knows what their life is like? What if they're having a bad time at home? And if I add to it, what could happen?
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. We have to be appreciative of the fans. I mean, we all started off as fans ourselves. And something about this business, you know, we must be the craziest fans because we decided to now become a part of it. We're a cog in this big, powerful machine known as professional wrestling. And, you know, we want to continue to help it move forward and inspire that next generation. I'm very much the same way. You know, you and I may be, you know, controversial figures, you know, in certain circles. But I think, you know, I've always been appreciative of the fans. And it's nice to hear that you're very much of that same mindset. In going back to one of the things we talked about and some of that resistance from veterans, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, you know, and this is a bit of a personal thing, because I remember I was on a show with Johnny Devine. You know, he was in TNA and Team Canada. I'm just explaining it for the audience. Obviously, we know who he is. And he had told me about some kind of an incident that had happened with you and him on a show. I saw some video of it where it looked like he might have been a little snug with you in there. I know he hit you with a chain in this match. I think it was in somewhere in Ontario. But it kind of looked to me like he was taking some liberties on you. Do you maybe want to, you know, enlighten us as to
I'll
what
tell you
happened?
straight up. I'll never forget that. You remember Donnie? Big Donnie or whatever?
Big Daddy Donnie? That guy?
Yeah, Big Dickhead Donnie. Yeah,
that guy, yeah.
So he didn't like me because I was doing big things at GCW and he didn't think I deserved all those matches.
Yep.
And I was not kissing his butt like everybody else did. So then he told Johnny Devine that I tried to beat up one of the All Japan guys and used this is what he said. And when Johnny Devine asked me about it, I go, do you think I'm going to beat up somebody when my goal is Japan? He goes, well, Donnie told me this, and I believe Donnie. I said, then believe Donnie, Johnny, because you know me. He goes, well, I'm going to be rough out there. I go, go ahead, man. I can fucking take it. And he did it. And then after he sat me down, he goes, you know why I did it? I go, I know why you think you did it, but you're fucking wrong. You know what I mean? And I like Devine. I've talked to him since. We are friends. But at that time, he believed Donnie because Donnie was booking shows and giving Johnny Devine and his boys money. And it was all on Donnie talking shit because he was didn't like me. But guess what? All the people he liked, other than Josh Alexander, where are they now?
Yeah.
They're sitting at home doing fucking nothing. And I'm sorry for cussing, but this gets me heated because Donnie, where's he now? You know what I mean? But as I said, I was outspoken. I went out there and tore it up. They were mad that I was wrestling Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Johnny Devine, Rhino, Bobby Roode, Chris Sabin, Tyson Kidd. I was wrestling all these guys, and they were upset that they didn't get the opportunity. Donnie was upset that his guys weren't getting the opportunity. That's all it was.
Yep. I felt like a lot of the same people that didn't like you were the same people that didn't like me. Again, I dealt with Donnie maybe once, so I can't speak for him, but just a lot of times, I just hear things
Well,
here and there.
all I can say to that is thank God you only had to deal with that guy once.
Yeah, all I really remember was
I hope he's still around, and I hope he hears this.
Yeah.
Because if so, I will give you my address after, and if he hits you up, give him my address. I want him to come to my front door. Because I'm 35 right now. I'm 20 years in, and I am not watching what I say to people like that. I'm past it. I'm past this heat thing. Don't get heat, brother. Like, man, people like that, they ruin the business. You know what I mean? Those are the ones that look at us and be like, well, what are those kids doing? Why are they acting like that? We're acting like this because we want to be something. Yeah. We go out there and have a match, and we'll tell people we're going to have the best match with them. And you know what? In 2006, 2007, I probably wasn't qualified enough to wrestle the guys I was wrestling. But God damn it, did I not think I was? Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you think it, you can believe it and show it and prove it. And that's Absolutely. What I did, because look at me. Yep. I've made it. Yep. I got to stand over here with trophies, awards for Match of the Years in Japan, my action figure, a wrestling ring, belts that I've won all across the world. I have a belt from Kata, from Japan, from Mexico, and from Ring of Honor here. Mm-hmm. No, I think I did all right. I have a plaque from a TV station in Japan. I have 2 action figures made.
Yeah, I mean, you got to believe in yourself. Like, you got to.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. And sometimes when you believe in yourself and you're new, it rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah, but I think it also rubs
Johnny.
them...
But on that note, Johnny Devine's cool as shit, man. I like Johnny Devine.
Just to give my 2 cents on that, because I mean, to me, I think it's a lot of times when they see someone as young and talented and confident, they realize they can't sink their hooks into them and manipulate them and steer them in the wrong direction and, give them all kinds of bad info. A lot of times these people, they want to be kingmakers. They want to say, oh, I took this guy who, didn't have the talent and whatnot, and I built him into a main eventer. If you're that guy who's already got the tools and knows you can deliver, then to a certain extent, you become able to call the shots on your own. You're a self-made man, and that rubs a lot of these so-called kingmakers the wrong way. It really sounds like you and I, we went down a very similar path, just, you in Ontario, me in Quebec doing my thing here. Both of us, still in the game, still in shape from what I can see there of you, still going at this and still just as passionate, most important of all.
I'm at 35 in the best shape of my life.
No. Yeah, I'm right there with you. You're actually
it's ridiculous. I got a 6-pack and I'm 250 pounds, and it's just
you're actually only a few months younger than me.
Yeah, you 36?
No, I'm 35, but I'm just like you. But you were born a few months after me.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked it up. I did some research before the interview.
Hell yeah,
man. And I mean, while we're on the subject, you don't have to worry about cussing. The show is called Jofo in the Ring. Just our effing opinion. So you don't got to censor yourself. Listen, hold yourself back.
I try not, because I don't know if a kid might watch or anything. I try to watch, but sometimes when I get heated and you know what I mean, and like excited about what I'm talking about, the cuss words coming. And you know what's funny about that? When I was a kid, not a kid, but a teenager, everybody'd be like, swearing is a lack of intelligence. But now they say that it's a heightened intelligence because you're thinking faster than other people can comprehend. So you throw swear words in to slow yourself down. Isn't that I think that's, especially when I talk about wrestling. Listen, I'm not saying I'm intelligent in other walks of life, but when it comes to wrestling, I will debate, and I believe I will out-intelligent 90% of people when it comes to wrestling.
Well, because it's something you're passionate about. I always tell people, if there's one thing in the world, I don't have a PhD or a master's degree, but if professional wrestling were an educational course, I'd probably have both of them many times over. So I get where you're coming from, my man.
Yeah.
So, like I said, controversy and fighting your way to the top. One of the things I'm very passionate about and I'm trying to shed some light on is Canadians and how we have a tougher road to making it. Because the business, let's face it, most of the major companies that we see on TV, at least locally, are companies in the United States. You need to look no further than right now WWE, AEW, Impact. These are companies based in the United States and are mostly picking their talent from people on the American independent scene. You're one of the few Canadians that was able to, make it close to the top of the industry, if not the top, depending on what you view that as. But, you managed to break out of Canada. What was that like for you? And how did you do it?
Well, I think it was pure stubbornness. But funny enough, so technically my first match was in 2002 when I was 14. But it was at like one of those schools that did gym shows and had monthly passes, not gym. You know what I mean? That was the way to get around the commission at the time. So my first real match, again, I consider my first match at 14 because I had a paying crowd. I wrestled 2 matches on my first show. And that was technically my first match. But my first match outside of that gym was in 2003 in Detroit because you could wrestle legally under the age of 18 in the States. So I started traveling the States early. And when I started, I was lucky enough to be around Ashley Six. And he was a guy that would email any promotion in Ontario and every promotion in the surrounding states. So if you were, Buffalo, upstate New York area, if you were Ohio or Indiana or Michigan or even Chicago, we would email them and go out and travel. And then we started traveling with Sin, who was Kazarni in WWE, and he would do all those shows around those states, and we'd travel with him. So we broke out in the States quite early. And then I lucked out, and in a span of a couple weeks, I wrestled Jimmy Jacobs and BJ Whitmer, and they put a word in for me with IWA Mid-South, and then I went to IWA Mid-South, where I met Delirious, and then Delirious ended up booking Ring of Honor, and then he booked me for Ring of Honor, and so forth. So really, it was just that I didn't feel comfortable sitting at home. So I would go out every weekend. And if the show was in Detroit, I was going to Detroit. If the show was in Ohio, I was going to Ohio. I wanted to be on the road the second Friday hit and not come back until I had to go back to school on Monday morning. So it was just pure stubbornness and not wanting to be at home. I mean, it's funny because wrestling is really kind of crappy sometimes when people mix words. I remember when I was the first person signed to a guaranteed contract with Ring of Honor, which meant I couldn't do indies, which meant I was only working twice a month rather than 10 times a month. And I was picking up other activities to do. And as I was earning my love back for baseball, because that was a sport I used to play, I found out about an open tryout that you could just go and do. It was free. And I was like, man, I'm going to do this tryout. I never thought I was good enough to make the fucking MLB farm teams. I was like, this is fun. I have the weekend open. Let's just go do this and get told how terrible I'm at baseball. But at least I went and did it. Because how many times do people not do something they're passionate about because they don't think they'll make it? I'm just not born and bred like that. I never thought I could play fucking baseball. But what I thought I could do is drive 3 hours to do a free tryout and just have some fun on a weekend that I have off for the first time since I was 14 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people just want to pick at things, and that's funny to me. It's like, do you think I'm going to give up this dream I've had since I was a child to fucking play baseball when I haven't played since high school? No. But a free tryout, what is there to lose? If LeBron James was down the street and said, I'm having a free pickup game, I'm going to go play basketball with LeBron James. I don't stand a goddamn chance, but I'm going to go do it because it's free and it's fun. Like,
yeah,
people are dumb.
Yeah, no, I get it. And, I knew of you going and traveling because I remember that one of the things I always appreciated about you was that you'd shoot me a message every so often and be like, hey, just trying to fill up the car. You think you could get down to Oshawa? We're going to IWA Mid-South, where I was one of the guys that you would invite. And like I said, we didn't have like a super close relationship or anything, but I appreciated that you were someone that would shoot me a message and say, hey, there's a spot for you if you can make it. And
well, I mean, you've been saying it since the start. We have the same mindset, and the people with same mindsets gravitate towards each other. I'm telling you right now, had we both been in, whether it be Quebec or Ontario, we would have been traveling every weekend together because we had the same mindset.
I think so, yeah.
It was just the distance. It was hard to make up. So we definitely would have. You gravitate towards people who have the same mindset as you. Anybody that's been in my car and lasted in the car have the same mindset as me. People would hop in the car and then the next week they were off. And I get it, you know what I mean? But there's a passion for this that, and maybe it was the wrong choice, but I missed birthdays, anniversaries, funerals, weddings, because all that stuff happens on the weekend, and the weekend's my time to work. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. And it's that's what wrestling is. I look at it as wrestling is my first love. So, yeah, there's going to be birthdays that are missed. There's going to be, big life-changing events, but wrestling, if you want to make it in this business, it's got to be the primary thing. You can't be putting anything else before it. And I think, again, that's something you and I both had in common. But yeah, just want to thank you, even though it's a little late in the game, but thank you for having offered me to go along with you, for those opportunities.
Of course, man.
I definitely think that was pretty cool on your part. And a lot of this interview is so that people can see that, there's a decent human being here. There's someone that, I met going up the ranks here in wrestling and was always cool to me, no matter what other people would say. So I'm glad that people get to hear and see that side of you. People
Well,
who maybe...
do you know who doesn't know the type of person I am? People that don't fucking know me. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You can jump on anything. And it's stupid. I think that's stupid. Listen, if you're good to me, I'm good to you.
And one of the...
That's as clear as it is. If you fuck up, I'll tell you fucked up, but I'm not abandoning you.
I remember you had promoted a few events. I forget the name of the company, but you promoted a few events. I know one time I did a 4-way ladder match. It was myself, Ethan Page. I forget who else was in it, but I remember there was a horrible snowstorm that day too. The weather was just terrible. At least it was on the drive back. And you had booked me on that show and on another one. And it's funny because I tell people this all the time, but maybe I should give them some context. But I remember that I left because of the weather and I wanted to beat it, and I left early and didn't get paid. And so that's why I tell people and I joke and I say, yeah, Michael Elgin, he still owes me money. But I remember that you messaged me that same day and you're like, man, I didn't get to pay you. Like, we gotta settle this, man. And I always appreciated that you had the decency to do that, because at the time...
Because I would be pissed if I didn't. I remember that specifically. I didn't remember that was you, but I remember emailing somebody to say, or mess or whatever it was at that time, to say, dude, why'd you leave? I didn't get to give you your pay. Yeah. I literally remember that, because I am big on, if I've agreed to something, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was good working with you, working for you on those shows, and those kinds of things happen. It's all good. It's water under the bridge, but it speaks to your integrity as a promoter that you went out of your way to reach out to me after that to make sure that was okay. So I appreciated that.
I said this to a friend, and I'm not going to say their name. This was recently. I'm putting some stuff together, and he edits videos, and he said to me, this is what I charge. I'll do it for you for this. I said, all right, what's your Cash App? And he gave me Cash App, and I gave $10 over what he charges. And he goes, hey, man, you sent too much. I said, no. I paid you what you're worth, and I gave you a tip because you do good work. Like, to me, I always did the favor when I started with Ring of Honor and stuff, and I would come back home, and my friends would ask for a discount. I'd give them a discount because they're my friends. And friends would give me a discount. But when I asked them what they want, they would just tell me a price and I would give it to them. But had they told me their price was what it was, I support my people. Blood means a lot, sure. But the people I want in my circle mean equally as much, if not more, because I chose them. And that means I'm going to look out for them. If today you started a business and you're selling socks, you said, hey, Elgin, I'm selling socks. You want some? I'm like, yeah, give me 30 pairs. You know what I mean? Because it's your business. Yeah. I'm trying to support my people, because I think that's a lost thing. I want the people around me that I love and care for to succeed in whatever it is they do. Why can't we all succeed in our chosen profession or chosen venture?
Yeah.
And I just bugs me, man.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you, man. So just getting back on track with, you had mentioned it before, but when Ring of Honor signed you to the first guaranteed contract, that must have been a pretty big moment for you. And also, if I'm not mistaken, there were some issues with getting you the work visa for that deal.
No, this is what happened.
Okay.
So I'll go through the whole work visa process. I was working without a work visa at Ring of Honor from 2010 to 2012. I had my match with Davey Richards at Showdown in the Sun. Me and Davey came to the back, and Hunter and Jim were ecstatic how the match went. And Jim said, Elgin, you just proved your worth. We're going to give you a raise, and we're going to pay for your work visa. And I kept talking to Jim, and he said, I'm waiting on Joe and Gary. I'm waiting on Joe and Gary.
Just for
And
our audience,
finally,
just for our
May
audience,
comes around.
Elgin, just for our audience, Jim who?
Jim Cornette.
Jim Cornette. Okay, thank you.
And he was waiting on Joe Koff and Gary Juster. So I gave it 2 months. We're in West Virginia. We filmed some TV, and I said, Jim, I'm not going to be in Baltimore next week. Thank you very much. He goes, what do you mean? We're pushing you. What do you mean? And I said, Jim, you told me that I was getting a raise and a work visa. I haven't got the raise yet, and there's been no discussion of the work visa, which means I'm not valued, and I'm not coming to Baltimore next week. He goes, we need you in Baltimore. What can I do? I go, you can guarantee me my work visa and my raise. And to Jim's credit, I know he's a controversial person too, but to Jim's credit, I drove from West Virginia to Canada, and by the time I pulled in my parking lot, in my driveway, I got a call from Jim Cornette, and he said, your raise is this amount, and I need you to bring everything you can to Baltimore to start your work visa. So then I got my first work visa. I signed a guaranteed deal, and at the time I was married, and they told me that they would get me a green card. They would pay for my green card. So I gave them all the paperwork for the green card, and they said they had extended my visa for 6 months so they could process the green card. Yeah. I go do Ring of Honor in Toronto, and on the way home, they stopped me saying there's no extension on my work visa. So I got stuck in Canada for 3 weeks. And in that 3 weeks, they got me a work visa, but they couldn't extend it or get my green card in time. Now, that was on, I don't know who did that. It wasn't Jim Cornette. It wasn't Hunter. Sorry, Delirious. I don't know who did that, but I was told I had an extension on my paperwork. And then somebody in the company, I'm not going to say their name, leaked to his buddies in the dirt sheets that I didn't get my stuff to them in time, which was bullshit. Because they had my paperwork, because when I got to the next show that I was on after they got me stuck in Canada, they gave me my paperwork for the visa because they had bought for my green card, because they'd already paid for my visa and weren't going to buy my green card now. So they had it all along and told me I had an extension because it took longer than they thought to get the green card. Yeah.
I remember I was working a show somewhere in Massachusetts. I forget the town. But I know that we were given a speech in the locker room by the promoter, Sheldon Goldberg, and he had said that he was one of the people instrumental in helping you out with getting that work visa. I think because he's a wrestling historian. He had contributed something, a letter, I think, endorsing you as one of the best talents in Canada and worthy of the work. You know, all the red tape that we have to go through. We have to prove that we're, an exceptional talent and all that. Were you aware that Sheldon Goldberg contributed to that?
No. Funny enough, the one person I know wrote a letter of recommendation for me saying the exact same thing that Sheldon did was Scott D'Amore. So.
Okay.
Funny, right?
Well, I mean, he would become your employer in the very recent past, and just again, we'll get to that in a bit. But I also wanted to just say, in the time that you didn't have the work visa, now I'm guessing your marriage probably helped to facilitate a lot of the crossing, at least to dissuade some of the suspicion. But maybe
no, I had a work visa before I was married, but it was a 2-year work visa.
Okay.
So what had happened was, in the process of having that 2-year work visa, I got married, and then Ring of Honor said they would pay for my green card instead of renewing my visa. But they took too long to get the green card, and we were doing a show in Canada. So they told me they had got a 6-month extension on my visa so I could get into Canada and get back to the States, and then they could process my green card.
Okay. But now,
I wasn't ever married before getting into the States.
Gotcha. So I'm talking about now before you had the work visa. Tell us about, how difficult it might have been some of the times, because I mean, I
never had any difficulty.
You never had any difficulty whatsoever?
Not once.
Yeah. And how would you go?
I never got stuck. I never got banned. I never got turned away. Never had an issue.
Never got pulled in?
I mean, we got pulled in sometimes, but it was in and out.
Okay. And what would be the story when you talk to the border people, if you don't mind me
Training
asking?
seminars.
No. Because to me, I feel like, because I was also doing some stuff in the States then, since a little while, it kind of tightened up. It kind of became a little more difficult for a lot of the talents. And especially now with COVID,
Right.
it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
And that's why, I mean, even for companies, guys wanting to go try out, let's say with a Ring of Honor, or, let's say AEW at this point, it's like, bringing them in just to try them out. It still becomes tricky without the paperwork and then the upfront investment they would need to make. Whereas you can just pull someone off of the independent scene in the United States, put them on a per appearance deal, and there's so much less risk on the financial end. And I think that's what really sucks, because we have so much great talent here in Canada, and we just aren't afforded the same opportunities, and the scouting isn't really looking at Canada. So I've tried to be one of the most prominent voices so that people can realize, hey, there are wrestlers that are just as good in Canada as there are on the American independent scene, but because maybe you don't see them in a PWG or a GCW or, whatever the top indie fed is. Yep.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Absolutely.
You just hit the nail on the head, though. There are Canadian talents equally as good as the talents in the States. Now, this is not a knock on Canadian performers, because I still try to watch as much as I can in Ontario and Quebec when I can get my hands on some stuff. Mm-hmm. Equally as good is not good enough to get a work visa. It's just not, because you said it yourself. Equally as good, if they're equally as good as somebody they don't need to fish up $2,000 for, why not take the other person? Mm-hmm. You have to be better than for somebody to want to give you a work visa. And this is what I see everywhere. This isn't just Canada. This is everywhere. How many people do that little step over the middle rope, hit the bottom rope, and jump in the ring and do something? How many people do a form of a cutter? How many people do a 630? How many people are doing? We all just, and I'm saying we because I was at that one point in my career. Everybody imitates everything that's out there. Now, it's impossible to create something new, but it's possible to do something that's been done a different way. And that is what people miss. Mm-hmm. I watch matches. Sorry, excuse me.
That's okay. That's what editing's for.
I consume wrestling like nobody else. I do about 2 hours of cardio a day, and I watch wrestling every time I'm on a piece of cardio equipment. I come home, I watch wrestling. I'm in the car, I'm thinking about wrestling. It consumes my life. And when I see something, I don't say that was a cool move. I think what happened before, what happened after, why, when, and where. When you watch wrestling, that's how you got to watch it. You can't watch it for the moves. And unfortunately, we're in a time where everybody's watching moves. They're not seeing why people do moves. Okay. There is unique talent out there that does things better than anybody. And I know people say whatever, but the Young Bucks are absolutely fantastic. They have so much knowledge and can do anything better than almost anybody. And they know it. And they do it. Kenny Omega is absolutely 100% the best person I have ever wrestled. And I have wrestled a who's who of talent. I would say the only two people that would be high on that scale that I haven't wrestled would be Bryan Danielson and Seth Rollins. Literally. Those are probably the only people that you could put on their level I haven't wrestled. Kenny Omega is the best person I've ever been in the ring with. And then you look at a guy like Will Ospreay, and people can go, well, he does this. If you watch his matches, he does so many little things that are absolutely blow away fantastic. And that's why Dave Meltzer gives him all these 5 stars. It's because he does all the little things. Yes, he does some amazing spots, and he's amazingly athletic. But he also knows all the little things in between. You look at a Zack Sabre Jr. How many people are trying to do that style? He does it better than anybody. England at one point was a black hole too.
Yep.
And they just do it so well. And I watch wrestling and I see carbon copies of people. And let me say this. If I see two people are equally as good and one is built like a star and the other one isn't, who should I pick? If one has gear bought from High Spots that a million people wear and somebody has a nice custom outfit, who do you pick?
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize that. The total package of wrestling, what you wear, how you present yourself, how you talk, how you act, how you wrestle, why and when you do things. And people are missing out on that.
Yeah.
I watch some matches and it's like I'm watching the same matches. And it's not that they're not good matches. I don't want anybody to think I'm saying they're terrible wrestlers. All I'm saying is you have to find who and what you are. And I think there's still a lot of finding that out. You know, you might think you know who you are, but let me put it this way. Wrestling is the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. But it was the hardest thing I ever did in my life until it became the easiest.
That's a very interesting take, and definitely a lot of interesting points there. I think about the equally versus being better than equally good. You make a great, outstanding point in that.
I mean, look at the Canadians from our era
mm-hmm.
that were able to break out into the States. And I think Quebec's more of a black hole than Ontario. Unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, if you really look at it, there was a wave of people breaking out, but then Steen and Generico were the only ones that stuck around. And now who's the only guy? Bailey, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just Quebec is like foreign land because the top brass usually only looks at Ontario. So I just want to say that. But if you look at Ontario, who's been truly successful from Ontario? Sean Spears, me, Josh Alexander, Ethan Page, from our generation.
Yeah.
And then before us, you know, there was Bobby Roode and Eric Young. They were a little bit before us. But really, think about it.
Yeah.
And then look at Winnipeg. In recent memory, Kenny Omega's the only guy that's broken out of there, and Winnipeg has some great talent too.
Yeah.
Calgary, who's come from Calgary recently? What's his name? Tyler Breeze?
Yeah. And Jinder Mahal.
Yeah. Isn't he? I thought he was a Vancouver guy. No, he is a
Calgary.
But still, two, right? You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, Canada is definitely a black hole. But, I mean, how could you not hire Jinder Mahal? Look at the guy. Look at Breeze. Look at Josh Alexander. Look at Ethan Page. They presented something that not a lot of people had.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be undeniable to break out of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not saying that there's not absolutely fantastic talents. Chris Chambers, he's great. You're great. You ever heard of Jesse V up in Ontario? He's doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Wheeler's doing great. What's his name? Von Vertigo. These guys are uber talented, but they haven't found their true own identity yet. That's all. Kobe Durst, great. You know, I'm more familiar with Ontario than Quebec, so
mm-hmm.
don't think I'm leaving Quebec out. You know, I like TDT. I think they're fantastic. I'm surprised they haven't been picked up. Obviously, you guys got Smash Brothers. They're great.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard, man. It's hard.
Well, I think it's hard because, again, we don't have that same playing field, whereas, you know, you can't just be as good. You have to be exceptional, undeniable, all those kinds of things. You have to be the complete package because, quite frankly, and I mean, I don't watch as much wrestling as you do, and I'm not going to try to, you know, fake my way into saying that I watch, you know, 2 hours every day doing cardio. My cardio is not even that long. But when it comes down to it, you know, the wrestling I see that in the American independent scene, you can honestly be good at one thing. Like, you can just be a great wrestler, or even not even a great wrestler, let's say a great acrobat or a great technician. You can just be a great promo or just a great body and still be able to find yourself in a position where you're making a living doing this sport. You're on national TV, all those kinds of things. Guys here on this side of the border, we got to be all that and then some just to even get a foot in the door, get a look. I've been a big advocate that I think that the scouting, much like they do in professional sports, they should be actively scouting the independent scene in Canada, in every country really, so that we can have the best talent on TV making money doing this. Because who's to say that the best wrestlers are the people you see on TV every week? There could be some great wrestlers that you don't see in other parts of the world, in Mexico, in Asia. I just think the scouting needs to be stepped up. And, I don't want to talk about a company like the WWE. They get enough exposure, but the way their hiring practices change every so often, going from hiring independent wrestlers to now saying we want people who've never wrestled before but who are athletes. It's always this ever-changing game where the scouts still aren't looking at the people who are on this side of the border, wrestling, love the business, have the talent, but don't have the same opportunities. So it's a bit of a Rubik's Cube, trying to find your way there. But it's good to see that someone like yourself was able to make it, and it's a good example that you can do it. Any of us can do it. We just gotta find that right answer to who we are and what we're able to do, and make them see the same thing. So it's a good message you put out there.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So yeah, as we've been talking about throughout this interview, you've been a bit of a controversial figure. Obviously, the latest news is that you recently have started a lawsuit against Impact Wrestling. Again, I don't know how much of it you're allowed to talk about, but I read some of the details of it, and maybe you could enlighten our audience as to what the gist of it is all about.
Absolutely. So, and again, I apologize. It's mealtime, and when you look like this, you can't miss a meal, baby. But basically, in 2020, there was a girl who said, I tried to go in her pants. When she showed she wasn't interested, I stopped. Hence, I tried to sexually assault her. Those were her words, her exact words. Now, this happened in 2010 in a hotel with Zach Gowen, Truth Martini, and Jeff Brooks. All which heard me say, because they were in the room with us when we got back, she was in the bed. It was my night to spend the bed with her. We had went to the bar. I got back and said, want to have sex? Half joking. She goes, no. I said, all right. And I went to bed. They were in the room. You know how hotels are. They were in the room. Mm-hmm. Never happened. And then another wrestler said that I sent her a dick picture in 2016. This, I believe, happened because I messaged her when I saw her put it online because I thought we were cool. And I said, I really don't know what you're talking about. All I remember was me, you, Chelsea Green, and Viper, who's now Dewdrop, went out to eat in Japan. And then I said I would come check out one of your shows, and you said you would come check out one of mine, and we were just communicating friendly. And she's like, oh, yeah, all that was fine. But then one night you were out drunk with the guys, and they saw you messaging me, and you said they dared you to send a dick picture, and you sent one. And I said, wow, if that happened, I'm sorry. Her exact words, I have all the messages. They're on my YouTube page if you don't believe me. Not you personally, but anybody's listening to this. She goes, well, to be fair, you said sorry right away. And I quote, it's not like I'm telling people you tried to rape me or anything. So it's not a big deal. So then this went online. I was called about it. They told me they were going to suspend me and investigate.
This is Impact.
Then they called me to tell me they... Sorry?
You said Impact was who called you?
Impact, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's all in the lawsuit. They were taking me off TV due to the allegations. Then they called me to tell me they weren't going to investigate because they didn't want the online backlash, but they'd sit me at home and pay me, and that they would maybe bring me back to TV or something like that.
So it was
It
wasn't really clear.
I can't firmly say anything because I'm not saying anything that's not public in the actual public lawsuit.
Yeah. But what you're saying, just so I can understand, and our viewers can understand, they kind of gave you a bit of an unclear message as to what your future would be.
Yes. Okay. Basically saying, like, we're going to pay you. We'll bring you back at some point.
Okay.
And I would email, get no response. I would email, get no response. And then they finally reached out to me, which is in the thing, them canceling Japan. They finally reached out to me to book me for NOAA. And I gave all the info that they needed. I took pictures for the visa. And then I didn't hear back. And then I didn't hear back. And then finally I heard back, but not from Impact, that Impact had canceled me off of NOAA. And then I asked them why, and then I asked them why, and then I asked them what's going on. And I asked them to do other things, and they said yes, and then said no. And finally, I was to the point that my ex-fiance, I caught her, I don't know if physically cheating, but had messages on her phone, and I asked her to leave my house, and she said she wanted to work on things. And I said, I don't know that I want to work on things. And then 4 days later, a sheriff showed up at my door with a restraining order. I said, what is this? They told me. I got a lawyer. In the restraining order, she said that if you just Google his name, you can see his company fired him for shit like this. And my lawyer Googled my name and said her lawyer is suggesting that we do this for 6 months, because if you have a restraining order put in place, it's 2 years. But if we mutually agree for 6 months, it's nothing. I said, what do you think? She goes, I think that if a judge looks online, they're going to think you're guilty. I go, but I have all these text messages. Again, all these text messages are on my YouTube page to show I'm not bullshitting. Mm-hmm. And my lawyer said the judge will for sure go with the girl. I would suggest take the 6 months. So after that happened, some other things arose with contacting a company, and I had a mental breakdown and was taken to the police station on a 5150 call, which is basically they came to the door, said, we need to take you in. I said, why? They said, somebody has called for your safety. And if we don't take this serious and you harm yourself or harm somebody else, we can be held accountable. Took me down to the police station. They took my picture. They asked me the questions, are you going to hurt yourself? Are you going to hurt somebody else? Do you have a gun in the house? Do you have anything that can harm yourself? I said, no. They have you ever thought about killing yourself? And I said, I don't know that I thought about actually doing it, but I wondered if it was better if I was dead. They had a medic take my blood pressure and my heart rate, and both were elevated. They took me to the hospital. From the hospital, they put me in a psych ward for 3 days. Then I get home, and then a month later, apparently she went and did an interview saying that I was arrested for breaking the restraining order, which I was never arrested. I was never charged. Again, St. Clair County, you can search my real name. It's not hard to find my real name. I have no pending charges. There's never been a court thing. There's no arrests, no anything. And that was all because publicly Impact said they were going to investigate something and never did. So it just all came crashing down on me. And finally, true transparency, my contract was due to end April 15th. And on April 16th, I had planned to take my own life because I thought there was no fighting back. And one day, my son hugged me for longer than he had ever hugged me in my entire life. Like he knew something was wrong. And that day I called the lawyer and gave him all the info, and we put the lawsuit in place.
Well, it's definitely some heavy stuff there, no doubt about it.
There was a couple times. The only reason that I didn't take my life is because I wanted to make as much money as I could from Impact to leave for my son for April 16th. Honestly, there was a time where I sat right in this chair with a gun to my head. There was a time where I tried to overdose on pills. And there was a time where I had chemicals to commit chemical suicide in this house. And I was ready to give up. And after that day with Jax, I got a lawyer and I got a dog. And I'm just hoping things work out, you know?
And what was it that pushed you to that level? Is it the not working for Impact? Is it how they handled the situation?
It was how they handled the situation and not wrestling. I only know wrestling. What can I do? I make good 6 figures a year. I'm going to go work at fucking Jiffy Lube for $20 an hour and be able to support me and my kid. I have no job history outside of wrestling. I've made a living at this since 2008. And then they tarnish my name by publicly stating they're going to investigate, and then publicly stating they're taking me off TV. And there's 20 to 30 wrestling websites that said I was fired due to allegations. So let me ask you, 3 people were accused. Me, Dave Christ, and Joey Ryan. They fired 2 people, but kept paying me. What does that say to you?
Well, to me, it would say that most likely they didn't have reason to fire you, that there wasn't actually any evidence pointing towards your culpability.
Their reason to not investigate was due to social media backlash. Because if they investigated and found out nothing happened, social media would be pissed off at them.
And I mean, another thing I came across, I was surprised because this isn't even the first time this kind of thing happens to you. I mean, it happened on a larger scale, but you had been a part of another situation in 2017 where someone had brought allegations that were found to not be true.
Not only that, the allegations started because she said Sean Orleans, who still wrestles for St. Louis Anarchy, but I still get shit from this girl. St. Louis Anarchy in St. Louis booked Sean Orleans, the guy that was accused of sexual assault by this girl, but because he didn't have any name value, she said that I covered up the sexual assault. A sexual assault which now apparently didn't happen because that whole crew at St. Louis Anarchy states that it didn't. So then why am I still getting shit?
No, I think that
I spent $50,000 to sue her and win the lawsuit because then after she realized she could just drag my name, all of a sudden we were in a relationship. Look, I'm traveling the world. Do you think I'm going to cheat on my wife in my hometown? That's stupid. Again, all the proof's on my YouTube page.
No, I get it. And I think that it's unfortunate because someone can bring forth an allegation. They can be found. I mean, look at Michael Jackson, for example. You know, people to this day believe Michael Jackson is a child molester, despite the fact.
Deshaun Watson.
No. There's
Deshaun Watson recently. Did you hear about that?
I'm not familiar with it. I know a bit, but I'm not overly.
He's a quarterback. He's a quarterback. He had a bunch of girls accused. He wanted to go to court. Goes to court. They clear him, and people are still like, "I won't support him." How did he get accused? The courts are wrong. Like, no, you go to the courts to see who's wrong and right. It's crazy, man. It's fucking crazy.
It's called innocent until proven guilty, and if you can't prove the person guilty,
it's not. That don't work. That don't work.
It's how it's supposed to be.
Guilty until proven guilty or innocent, and even if you're proven innocent, everybody's going to say you're guilty still, because why would you accuse somebody? What? You never heard of somebody being falsely accused? Are you kidding me?
No, and
it's
no,
dumb, man. Dumb. You Google stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's crazy how many people get falsely accused.
Yeah, no, it's trust me.
No, but I don't want this to come off wrong. I think that there is such a small percentage of people that would use something so serious for their own personal gain, like a very small thing. But I think because there was a small contingency that got away with it, it started widening. And some people who maybe didn't feel so good about themselves in their lives wanted some support from people they didn't know. So they jump on the bandwagon. Now, I'm not saying that every girl who's ever accused somebody of something, because, man, I'll be real with you. Any fight, actual fight I have ever been in my life was because somebody did something inappropriate to a girl. Like every fight. I've only ever been in like 4 or 5 fist fights, and it was always because I can rattle them off to you. It's insane. Because somebody was disrespectful to a girl. Now, I'm saying not necessarily verbally, but like physical or threatening or something like that. Like, have I told someone to fuck off who was being stupid? Yes, maybe I should watch my language and maybe I should be more polite. But if you're doing something inappropriate, male, female, whatever, I'm going to say go fuck yourself, because that's just my nature. Now, if you're cool and you're not doing anything wrong, it's not like I'm just going to walk out the street and say, hey, fuck you. You know what I mean? It's just, the last thing I want is people to think I'm saying every allegation is false against everybody in the world. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is unfortunately, because there is such heinous acts out there, Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, you know what I mean? Like, there is true people out there that use their power and position to take advantage of people. I have seen it. And I have seen guys in a wrestling position say and do stupid shit. People that I would tell to piss off. And I'm never going to say their names because at one time, whether they turn their back on me, I don't do that. Okay? It's not my business. Now, if a girl came to me and said, you remember when this guy did it? I would back them up to go to the police, to go to the courts, whatever. But like people who maybe said something in a closed room, you know, if a buddy of mine was asking me to book a girl when I was running Glory Pro because he wanted to sleep with her, I'm not going to say his name to people. I didn't book that girl for him to sleep with. She was only ever on the show once. And once he said that, I didn't book her again because I thought that was inappropriate. But I'm the bad guy. It's whatever.
Yeah, but at the same time,
I have people.
Yeah, but let me just interrupt because just to say, at the same time, there needs to be evidence for there to be, you know, any kind of a ramification. And if the evidence doesn't point towards the conclusion that people want, they can't just stick with that conclusion just because they don't want to let the facts get in the way of a good story. That's my 2 cents.
But you're speaking like a rational human being.
I usually do that.
Look at, have you checked out my YouTube page?
I've not. I've seen one video that you put up, and that's the only thing.
There is literally text messages from people who have said shit about me, directly contradicting what they've said online, but nobody's looking at it because they don't want to say, maybe we're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I spent $50,000 to win a lawsuit of a girl who, again, and I don't give a shit because I heard these guys are talking shit about me at their St. Louis Anarchy shows. Sean Orleans was the person who was accused of sexually assaulting that woman. He wrestles free and clear because he is so fucking low on the totem pole and nobody gives him shit. And St. Louis Anarchy still books him, but people give me shit about that for covering up a sexual assault when it never happened. So if it happened and I covered it up, which it didn't because I took her to court to prove I didn't cover it up, to prove we weren't in a relationship, and I won that lawsuit, then why is he able to wrestle freely and nobody goes and bitches at St. Louis Anarchy and nobody asks them to take it off of IWTV when Sean Orleans is on it?
Yeah, it's because he flies under the radar because it wasn't someone who was as high profile because people want to, you know, be able to say that, you know, this person, despite the fact that the evidence maybe doesn't point towards it, this person is the sensationalized story that we thought it was. And, you know, we maybe jump to some conclusions.
Everybody wants a face to the boogeyman. If some girl says, Joe down the street hurt me, people are going to be like, I'm so sorry. That's not good enough for the people. Again, the small fraction of people that falsely say this stuff, that's not good for them. That's good for a normal person who is actually affected. They want the masses to be like, fuck that person. You're our people. Good for you. Good for you. They want support because they're so low in their own life. You know, they're at this level and they want to bring down the people to their level because they're so unhappy. I'm a happy motherfucker before all this shit. I have a great life. I'm very fortunate to do what I love, to have an amazing kid. I mean, the only reason that all this shit happened was I was rude to somebody for telling me that I should teach my students to be better because he went to her house and when she didn't want to have sex, he left. That was the first claim. And then 3 months later, after she slept with David Starr and was trying to sleep with me, and I kept telling her no, I said, go have fun with David Starr. And then the next day she tells me that Sean Orleans sexually assaulted her after 2 months of just saying he was an asshole for leaving when she didn't want to have sex. And that's when I said, fuck off. And then she goes, when can I come give you, much cruder words, but she's like, when can I come to the show and give you oral in the parking lot? And I said, I'm married. My wife's at all these shows. I'm not interested. And then 2 hours goes by, and she messaged me, I can't believe you're booking Sean Orleans. He sexually assaulted me. And then I would say, suck my dick or shut up. Again, people say that I was trying to get her to do that. No, that was like, you tell me to go fuck myself. And I say, why don't you suck my dick? You know what I mean? Like, it's that. Because she only posted the one screenshot that said this instead of the 2 hours before where she's bitching at me for booking or where she's begging to come to the show early.
Yeah.
So it's like people don't, well, I seen the screenshot. You dumb fuck. Don't you know if you have a phone, an iPhone, you just go delete this part, delete that part, delete that part. Or if you just take a picture of this part and put it up, it looks a lot different. I could make my mom look like she murdered somebody if I wanted to through our text messages. You know what I mean? But people are stupid and they don't want to look in. If everybody who talks shit about me online went to my YouTube page and actually paid attention, they'd be like, damn, maybe he's not the nicest guy, but he definitely didn't do what these people did. You know what I mean? Just, whatever, though. Nobody's going to do that. Yeah. It's going to take me winning a lawsuit, and I'm fine with that. I hate that it's came to that. I think people think that, like, I'm enjoying this. I hate it. Some of my favorite people in the world, Eddie Edwards, Josh Alexander, Mike Bailey, Ace Austin, Chris Bay. I love these guys. I would do anything for them. And they're working for a place that I have to go after just to get all the info out because nobody has all the info. I gave you what's public knowledge. Do you know how much more there is to this? There is so much more. It's insane.
So, I mean, you know, you talk about the first incident there, and I mean, maybe we shouldn't focus on that because, you know, that's been proven. It's gone to court. You know, you've been exonerated. That's beating a dead horse at this point because you proved your point and you won. But in dealing with,
I think the only reason I think that's important is I think hadn't that girl lied, people would have deep dived into this because you go back before she accused me. And you go check social media and you go check anything, everybody was saying how Glory Pro was the best indie show. Everybody was saying how great of a fucking wrestler I was. You go watch me and Zack Sabre Jr. from AEW and the crowd's going, Zack Sabre, Big Mike, Zack Sabre, Big Mike, this is awesome, fight forever, everything. And then 4 months later, they're booing me out of the building because some girl lied. What? Get the fuck out of here. You jumped up. You've all seen me at AEW for the last 7 years, treating all of you with respect, giving you everything I have, and you're going to turn on me like that? And Danny Daniels from AEW is going to turn on me like that? Fuck them. That's what I don't like. I would have fucking took a bullet for Danny Daniels, and he fucked me over. And he's done it to other people, too. And that crowd at AEW fucked me over, and I would have done anything for that crowd. Matches that I had there, I wouldn't have at any other promotion because that place was fucking special to me. And they treated me like that. How about now? How about now when people that Elgin, how do I get to Japan? Hey, man, I think you're a great worker. Here's the contact. I'll even message them for you. And then those motherfuckers don't talk to me now? I'll see, because those motherfuckers that don't talk to me now are out of a job currently.
Well, you know,
they're not getting signed anywhere because they don't have somebody like me fucking pushing for them. I'm not saying me specifically. I'm saying somebody like me because I had their back because when we are people, we are people. And I have realized now who my people are and who my people aren't.
Yeah, you find out who your true friends are when adversity hits. You know, when you're on top, everyone wants a piece of the pie. Everyone wants to ride a coattail. But, you know, you really find out who your true friends are the ones that stick with you when the going gets rough. I can totally relate to that. In talking about what happened with Impact and how they handled the situation, they seem to want to kind of sweep this under the rug and give the public one story while maybe giving you another. Do you feel on your end that if you could go back and handle things differently, you would have taken maybe a different approach to how it went or done something different?
I would have spoke out immediately and provided my evidence.
Were you told not to speak out?
I was told to. I can't go into that.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, but I would have presented all the evidence I have immediately, like, yo, this is bullshit. Mm-hmm. But I was told that certain things, you know what I mean? Like, I would have definitely handled it differently. But I mean, I thought, and this is my wrong. I now know there is no true friends in this business. I considered the three people that were in control, D'Lo Brown, Scott D'Amore, and Don Callis, as friends. I consider them friends. And I was wrong in doing that. And I will never consider an employer a friend ever again.
Yeah. Are they all named as parties in this in the lawsuit?
I mean, I'm just saying that those are the three people that were in charge. Impact, okay. Anthem Sports Impact is what's named. But those were the three people in charge that I thought were my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurts. That hurts because, again, I would have done anything for my friends. Anything. As a matter of fact, you know what's fucked up about this? And this, it makes me actually upset. Like, not a thing. When I talk about Jax and end of my life, I was going to cry. But this hurts me because me and D'Lo would sit in the locker room and talk about Japan. And he shared that same love of Japan for me. And when I was supposed to go over when the pandemic hit, I was going to ask if I could use my miles to fly him with me. Because I knew how much he missed Japan and how much he loved it. And I respected and thought we were friends. And that hurt more than any friendship ending I ever. I was going to use my miles just because that's all we would drool over. Man, what about this restaurant? What about this food? What about this? What about the wrestling over there? What about Cork and Hall when it's packed? And like that, yeah, I was trying to use my miles to fly him over there. Mm-hmm. So the whole split with the company and how I was treated after it hit. It hit and it made me realize that really you don't have many friends in this business.
And that's
I knew that. You know what I mean? I knew that, but I genuinely had known Don and Scott for so long, and me and D'Lo had got together so good. But those were the three people in charge, and I guess it was a tough lesson to learn that the people in charge really don't care.
That's incredibly rough, and I'm really sorry you had to go through that. Just out of curiosity, I mean, did what happened there, did that affect you in Japan, like in general? Because obviously there are many promotions out there. So, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of fans are watching this and saying, well, what's stopping you from maybe going to another company, maybe going to one that's not affiliated with Impact? What was the ramifications on like the Japanese wrestling scene with how they handled this and how that affected you directly?
I mean, they're working with New Japan, so I'm not going to go back to New Japan. They were working with Noah. I'm assuming they're not anymore. But the pandemic hit, and I missed one booking, and then Impact canceled me from them. So who knows? And
can I? I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't mean to interrupt you. But when you say Impact canceled you from them, they told them not to use you.
Yeah, they had booked me. Impact personally. I mean, it's all in the lawsuit where they booked me and then canceled it.
Okay.
So, it's all in the original complaint against them was one of the things that I was booked for them, and then they took it away.
Yep.
They being Impact.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that hurt me. And DDT is working with AEW, and I'm sure AEW doesn't want to be near me until I can clear my name. And yes, there's a lot of other smaller promotions, but after the pandemic, can they afford to fly me?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, no,
it's a crapshoot.
No, it's definitely a tricky situation. There was a story that I came across, or actually it was an interview with Tama Tonga, where he was really dragging your name through the mud, saying that there were some issues with New Japan, that you went to go work for All Japan. And again, I just kind of want to get your side of that story of what the issues were there with New Japan, All Japan, and the stuff that he said.
Well, one, I never worked for All Japan. Two, there was no issues. I wanted to be home more with my son, and I wanted to work on my marriage. And Impact was interested in me, and they had a lower schedule. So I asked for my release from New Japan. they granted it to me greatly. And I went to Impact because the schedule was lighter. You know, Impact films twice a week. I'm not going to Japan for 4 weeks at a time. And Big Japan had reached out for me to do 2 days for Big Japan. So I went and did 2 days because I missed Japan. So I went to Japan. And if that crossed some hairs over there, whatever. I'm not going to not go to Japan. My thing was being away from my kid for 4 weeks at a time. Because I had already missed so much of him. And he has autism. And I was getting upset about me getting home and him only wanting to spend time with his mom because I was like a stranger in the house. Yeah. And it was very tough. And growing up with my dad not being around, I didn't want him to ever feel like that. So I asked him at least to spend more time with him. And I went to Impact because Impact offered me the same money New Japan was paying me, which was really good money. And that way I had a lighter schedule. And Big Japan wanted me. And I loved Japan. So I went over there for 2 days. It wasn't over there for the tours. But he needs to make something. And you know what? It sucks because I used to really like Tama. And somewhere along the way, he started acting like a dick. And if you act like a dick to me, I'm going to act like a dick back. And then he fucked up my tricep with a chair. And he'll be like, well, it was plastic. Yeah, but the frame's metal. And he was unsafe with it. Even the boy said, are you okay after? Because he was unsafe with it. And then shit rolled downhill. So whatever. I mean, I'm past that. You know, he was unsafe with the chair. He didn't apologize for it. Like, if I do a move and I accidentally land somebody the wrong way, and they come back and go, dude, you fucked up my neck. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What did it happen on? We're supposed to be professional. But like I said, at one point, Tama was like my favorite person to be around. And something just switched in him, and he was not nice to anybody. And I don't have time for that. Like, as I said, and you know, it sucks because I think he's pretty good. I think he has this charisma that not a lot of people have. And he was a dick to me. So why am I supposed to fucking kiss his ass? I don't care if he's been there longer than me. I've been wrestling longer than him. Now, I'm not saying he should kiss my ass, but I'm definitely not going to kiss ass. That's all.
Yep. And this business shouldn't be about kissing ass. Unfortunately, oftentimes it ends up, that's what it's about. And that's why certain people get to certain places.
I think at first he felt like he had to stand up for Japan because he had been there longer. But I wasn't going to disrespect the country. I never did. You know, some foreigners have definitely, I'm not saying with New Japan or anybody I know personally, but there's definitely been some foreigners that went over to different countries and acted a fool. And him and Fale kind of like gave me a little talk the first couple tours. And I understood that. There was no beef there, like, because I still love Fale. And I said, I don't even care if Tama hates me. I think sometimes he gets too in his head, and some of the matches we had weren't that great because he gets too in his head. But when he doesn't get in his head and he just free flows, man, he's the coolest motherfucker there is. I mean, watch him. You probably watched him. Got the little dance going. He looks cool, a handsome dude in shape. Like, when he's free flowing, he's fucking untouchable. But when he got in his head, man, it was not enjoyable. That's all.
All right. Now, another thing, I know we're kind of going a little reverse here in the chronology, but when you were in Impact, you were part of a big angle that was building involving Tess Blanchard. Tess Blanchard, I should say it the American-sounding way. Were there some plans that you were going to be the one to take the belt off her?
There's a lot to that story, and it's part of my lawsuit.
Oh, okay.
So I can't really discuss it. Let's just say that whether it had been for a title or not, me and Kenny Omega was supposed to happen at Impact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huge. That's huge. What could have been? Yeah.
Yeah, right? Again, I mean, there's so much more that I can't discuss that, like, I know, you know, the TNA fans, not all of them, but some are like, probably fuck Elgin or whatever. And probably some of the boys there are like, fuck Elgin. But they don't know the interactions. They don't know the inners. And I said, I would have loved to be able to clear this up without going to the courts. But it became very clear that this was the only resolve for me. You know how many promotions I'd worked for years that cut ties with me the second Impact said they took me off TV?
I can imagine.
You know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Just sit here and fucking take it? Because who's going to hire me?
Mm-hmm.
If Impact makes it look like they fired me due to allegations that were false, do you think I can go get a job with WWE tomorrow?
That wouldn't be likely, no.
That's what people don't understand. I have a child. I need to put food on the table and clothes on his back, and that is the most important thing in my life. And people will tweet, why don't you get a real job? Motherfucker, wrestling is a real job.
Oh, yeah.
And what does that even mean? These people have never paid a ticket to see a live event in their fucking life, and they're trying to take somebody's living from them. Oh, he's not a nice person. 1, you don't know me. 2, if you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. 3, please tell me, out of all the false allegations, one allegation that happened at a wrestling show. What am I going to do? Fucking jump the guardrail and start grabbing people's asses? Like, it's a wild fucking world. As I said, it comes from people who are so unhappy in their life that they put it on others. Now, look, if I was guilty, if I did the things I was accused of, I deserve being hated. I deserve being shunned. 100%. Am I always the nicest person? No. Do I have an attitude sometimes? Yep. Do I have an ego? Yeah. But my ego comes from my talent. I don't think I'm above anybody, but I do think anybody who's less experienced, I can bring up to my level. When I get in that ring, I don't care who or how long you've been doing this. My job, again, goes to if I'm wrestling somebody newer than me, whether it's on TV or not, and I have a bad match, they're not looking at that guy. They're looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
And a good match is never one-sided. As a matter of fact, if it's still out there, I wrestled Trey Miguel on the first set of tapings, first or second set of tapings during the pandemic. And that was the first time I saw a tweet saying, man, Trey Miguel's going to be a future world champion. Now, he is. Trey Miguel is super talented. But it took somebody to go out there and say, Trey, do this here, do that there. Now, I'm not saying he wouldn't have got there. I'm not saying that I am this magic wrestler who brought it out of him. It was there or made it happen. It was there. It was just a little bundled up, and it took people who had more experience and had more big matches under the belt to bring it out in people. And that's okay. But people take that as ego. That's not ego, because I don't go out there and just squash people and say they can't fucking hang in there with me. Because what does that do? I want to wrestle somebody who's new to TV, who's less experienced, and then right off the bat, somebody go, who the fuck is this guy? He's amazing. Who the fuck is this girl? She's great. Because if they look good, I look good. And people misconfuse, like they confuse that so much. I meant to say misconstrue.
Yeah.
Like, my job is to have the best match possible with anybody and everybody I get put in the ring with. Am I going to fail sometimes? Sure. Am I going to succeed most of the time? Absolutely. And my track record proves it. Now that people want to believe false allegations, they're going to say Michael Elgin wasn't so great. But go back and look. Go back and look at the fucking matches I had. You combine my matches with PWG, AAW, IWA Mid-South, New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact TV. The thought about Impact was starting to change when I fucking started just hammering it out. And that's not just me. It's because I went in there with a different philosophy. And I went in there and looked at Eddie Edwards and said, Eddie, you're one of the best wrestlers in the fucking world. Let's go out there and remind them. And he was like, you know what? I am. I'll go there and Trey Miguel. Go, dude, you're going to be fucking great in the future, and you got it in you. Let's go show them. Not saying they weren't that. Not saying I made people. People still come up and tell me that me and Rich Swann's match in Philadelphia in my first year in the company was the best match they've ever seen out of both of us. Rich Swann's a fucking amazing wrestler. But people bring the best out of each other. And I feel I am really good at bringing the best out of others. And others that are so good that I've had the opportunity to work with, like the Rich Swans, Trey Miguel's, When I can bring something great out in them, they bring something great out in me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a team. It's a teamwork. What we do is a teamwork. And people are like, he's egotistical and he's that. He's that. I'm absolutely egotistical. But I'm not egotistical in the fact that I think I'm better than somebody. I'm egotistical in the fact that I know where my strengths are, how talented I can be with those strengths. And if that's a bad thing, then you're in the wrong fucking business if you think that.
Well, see,
we all should have an ego about our talents. We should all be confident in ourselves because that's how we produce the best fucking matches. Do you think Kenny Omega doesn't believe he's the best wrestler walking God's green earth? Of course he does. You know why? Because he fucking is. Do you think the Young Bucks think they're the greatest tag team ever? Fuck yeah. You know why? Because they're likely up there. Do you think FTR promos about being the best are fake or a work? No. Because they're fucking amazing and they're going to tell everybody they're amazing.
Yep.
You have to have an ego about yourself. Again, that ego doesn't come to demean others because to me, like we said earlier, if you raise everybody up, the level just keeps going up and we can produce amazing things. And that's all I want from wrestling. Me, everybody else out there, work to get each other better. That's all.
Yeah, no.
I'll go on tangents. Sorry.
No, it's a great point, and I agree with a lot of it. Look, I'm in that same boat just like you, and I think that, so long as you can deliver, there's nothing wrong with having an ego. So long as you can go out there and actually do what you say you can do, there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't think anyone should see that as a bad thing, whether it be in wrestling, whether it be in any kind of sport or any kind of performance, really. I think it's good to have a healthy ego. So in terms of the stuff that you're doing now, are you still wrestling like locally in the United States? Has what's happened with Impact affected you?
I just had my first match back. Saturday. I got a show in Dallas Friday. I have a couple other ones, and then I'm working on something special. Yeah,
and one of the things I saw that you're working on is a bit of a homecoming. Your 20th anniversary, yes. 20 years in professional wrestling. Happening right at the place you were born, the place you started, Oshawa, Ontario. That may very well have been, actually it's not where I first met you, but I think I was on a show or two with you in Oshawa, maybe in the GCW days. Yeah, maybe tell the fans a bit more about what that's going to be all about.
Well, before I do that, what do you do on July 30th?
Let me check my calendar here. I don't think I have anything for the month of July as of yet. Let's see. I got July 30th open.
Well, you're booked.
I'll take it.
Perfect.
I will take it. I appreciate it. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Folks watching at home, you just saw a great moment here. This is how we do business in the wrestling business. I know. Yeah. In all seriousness, I appreciate that. I've been dying to get back down to Oshawa. Did a little bit with PWE with Pro Wrestling Eclipse. Yeah, but
it's my 20th anniversary, so we're going out. Not necessarily. I don't drink very much, but there's this fucking kick-ass restaurant that I want all my people to enjoy that night.
Sounds good. I mean, I don't drink. I've never drank, but hey, you know what?
Me neither. That's what I'm saying. It's not a bar.
Yeah,
we're going to celebrate with pierogies and chicken wings. Yeah. The best pierogies and chicken wings you ever had.
I enjoy good company, and I enjoy wrestling as well. So
I don't drink anymore. Yeah. I don't drink at all anymore.
Yeah. And you
at all.
I don't think you and I, other than that time we went for breakfast there, like we talked about earlier. I don't think we ever went to any kind of like an after party or a bar or a restaurant or anything like that.
No, it's hard when you're not like leaving the show together, right? Because if you come to Ontario, Oshawa, or Toronto, you're leaving and getting something on the road. If I'm coming to Quebec, we're leaving and getting something on the road, right? So it's hard to kind of match up with people unless you got a couple shots in the same city. Yeah.
No, but definitely I'll put that on the calendar and awesome.
Yeah,
man.
You're good. We'll talk about. It's funny. I had one more match left to book, and I couldn't figure out who I wanted. And we were talking and reminiscing about stuff. And obviously, I remember you. You know what I mean? But we just haven't talked in years, so you're not at the forefront of the thought process. Yeah. But it's funny because I saw a picture. I'm like, damn, man, look at him looking jacked. Like that's one thing you're gonna see. I have some junior heavyweights and some luchadors on the show, but they're all in shape.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like I have nothing wrong with people being smaller or not in the best shape, but personally for me, I grew up watching the British Bulldogs and Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, and
Yeah.
I like my wrestling how I like my wrestling. There's nothing wrong with being out of shape. You know, the normal people that people might talk about, I think are fantastic wrestlers. I watch as much wrestling as I can. And it doesn't bother me watching somebody who's not in a certain shape, because if they're a great wrestler, they're a great wrestler. But my personal preference is that you're a great wrestler and you're a little bigger. Like my personal preference.
Yeah.
But again, I have nothing against whatever shape people are in. If they're a great wrestler, they're a great wrestler.
Well, I pride myself on both. Like I said, I want to be as adept at what I look like that someone can just see an 8x10 or see me on a poster and say, I want to know what that guy's all about. The same way as if they don't see me on the poster, from the second I make my entrance, get in that ring and start to do my thing once the bell rings, they can be impressed by that. Same way as if they put a microphone in front of me, whether on a podcast or whether in front of a live audience. So I really...
My dream goal, are you ready for my dream goal? This is my dream goal, okay? Ready? I want somebody to ask if these are implants. Yeah. I just want look at. I got the old school fake surgery titty right there.
Oh, yeah. Some good striations you got going on there, and some.
No,
good...
dude, I that's all I like. I mean, I was getting paid to sit at home.
Yeah.
Right. I couldn't wrestle. I was making 6 figures sitting at home. All I did was, you know what? Screw it. We are still going to talk about the 30th.
Okay.
We are going to do it. This is my house, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. We see I'm in my house. This is how serious I take this shit. Wrestling is my life.
We're now watching Cribs starring Michael Elgin.
Oh, you think I'm playing? All right, you ready?
Yep, let's see it. Okay, yeah, nice rack there, yeah. The plates. Overhead pull down, yeah, nice.
Old school T-bar row.
Yeah.
Back extension and abs.
Whoa, look at all that.
Row. A little deadlift action here. We got the leg extension.
Look at that.
We got
dips.
Yep. And an ab coaster.
Nice.
Here's my preacher
curl, yeah.
Shoulders.
Those dumbbells.
Benches and dumbbells. 5 to 100. And there's also a fly machine and a pull down right there.
Wow. Yeah, man, you're equipped. You got it all.
Whew, buddy, that pandemic wasn't stopping me from working out.
Yeah, next lockdown, I'm coming to stay with you.
Please, honest to God, look it. On my life. If you want to get stateside to work, I have a spare bedroom upstairs. We can work something out.
You're in what state?
I'm in Illinois, right outside of St. Louis.
Okay, cool. So we'll keep.
I'm not. Come stay for a month. We'll work something out.
Well, we'll definitely keep in touch. We'll definitely keep in touch. Yeah. And I appreciate you hooking me up with that show there on the 30th. And
yeah. So July 30th, Oshawa. Funny enough, the Legion Hall that we once wrestled in.
Yep. My
mom runs. So it's at the Oshawa South Legion, 471 Simcoe Street South. July 30th. So far, I've announced Aramis, a great luchador. Erez, another great luchador. Gringo Loco, who's been blowing up on GCW. Mm-hmm. And there's still some surprises that I'm working on. But it's going to be a heck of a show. And I'm celebrating my 20th anniversary in my hometown. Almost to the day. I wish that the 27th was on a weekend, but it's a Wednesday, but we're doing it the 30th instead. So hopefully anybody watching this can hit me up and follow along and check out the show. And for you guys, thank you very much for having me on the show. It was really good to catch up, man, for real.
Yeah, likewise. We should do more once we're off the air. I'm not necessarily tonight, but you can hit me up anytime.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I feel that people gravitate towards each other that have the same mindset. I have friends that we can go months, years without talking about, and then when you talk to them, it's like, dude, why the fuck haven't we talked in so long? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would definitely think we should stay in touch, and I appreciate you guys giving me the time tonight.
Yeah, likewise. And, thank you so much for being a guest here. I'm sure our audience enjoyed that. And I wish you all the best in everything that you do. I wish you well in the lawsuit. I wish you well in getting your career back on track, overcoming adversity. And if ever you need someone to talk to, if ever you need someone to listen, someone just to shoot the shit with, I'm here for you, man. I want you to know that.
Thank you. And you know what? I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound egotistical. I think that things are going to work out. I think that this is the right path. I think that I needed this in my life to appreciate the things maybe I didn't appreciate before. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing else that I was born to do but wrestle. So I am confident that everything is going to work out.
Yep. No arguments from me on that one. I think you're 100% on the money with that. And so once again, thank you so much for being here. And I'd like to thank everybody watching this interview for tuning in. And if you want to follow the adventures of Michael Elgin, Michael, where can they follow you on social media?
You can follow me on Instagram at Big Bad MF for Mike, and on Twitter at Michael Elgin 25. And I do I'm a little bit less interactive on my social medias now. I used to really try to interact with everybody. But I am staying away from ever communicating with anybody, so they can't say anything. But if it's a very nice message, I do try to respond, and I try to post what I can. But for the most part, I'm active on it, but I don't really interact, and it's just because of the stuff that has happened, and I don't want anybody to have anything to say like, oh, I talked to Michael Elgin and he was a dick or whatever. So I try not to really respond. But I appreciate anybody who does post anything on my socials and follows along. I generally do appreciate it because, as I said, I wish that I had this much access to people that I admired and people that I watched on TV and respected as people do now. Mm-hmm. And I try to keep that in mind when I interact with people because I want them to go away from any interaction with me with a positive thought.
Excellent. All right. Well, once again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the opportunity that you're giving me. And thank you for being so open and so candid with our audience. And I really hope that this interview goes a long way towards showing people a side of you that, a side that I've known for a long time, and that hopefully, they can appreciate and connect with. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that said, this concludes another outstanding episode of Jofo in the Ring. Remember to like the episode, subscribe to our channel. You can follow us on Twitter at Jofo in the Ring. You can follow us on Instagram, also at Jofo in the Ring. I think, but I probably got it wrong from what the producer is showing me here. In any event, you can follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Prophet, Instagram at The Real Jeremy Prophet, and you can always see me here every Tuesday, 7 p.m. on YouTube on Jofo in the Ring, where we'd like to remind you that wrestling is life.
So, Jofo, I'm a gargle a shot for Kurt Hennig and everybody before we go.
Oh, no.
Jofo, thank you guys.